Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Digital Platforms Fund webinar. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If you can't, then let me know, please. If one of my colleagues can let me know, hopefully it should be okay. My name's James Atkinson. I'm the fund manager at Media Cymru, and we're just going to be taking you through the Digital Platforms Fund today, and you'll be hearing from a couple of other colleagues as well with us from Creative Wales and NFTS, and maybe some Media Cymru colleagues as well. So if I just go to housekeeping just to start. So you know this webinar is being recorded. The way that we run it is that you can ask any questions that you want as you go through using the chat facility in English or Welsh, and my colleague Rachel will be answering as many of those as she can as we go through. But what we'll also do at the end is give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions that you've got at all. We'll also look back at the questions that people have asked and see if we can group some of those together. So there's no obligation at all to put them in the chat. It's just there as an option if you want, and we will go through questions at the end. If you've got any technical difficulties at all, then just please email us at media.cymru, and my colleague Ellie will be there to support you with that. Okay, so the agenda, what I'm going to start by doing is just introducing you to Media Cymru and our innovation pipeline, which I know a lot of you will be aware of already. Then give an overview of our Digital Platforms Fund, and then we'll look into more of the detail around eligibility, how the applications will be assessed, and look at the actual application form as well. And then we'll finish with the Q&A session that I've mentioned. So at this point, I will just pass over to a couple of my colleagues to introduce themselves. So Judy, do you want to just say hello to everyone?
Yes, hello everybody. My name's Judy Wasdale and I lead on skills and talent for Creative Wales.
Great, thanks Judy. Rhiannon?
Hello, I'm Rhiannon Forsyth. I'm from the National Film and Television School in Cymru, Wales. And the reason I'm involved in this project is due to the work that we're doing in the digital space at the moment.
Thanks, Rhiannon. And Andy, if you're with us as well, please.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Andy Walters. I work at PDR, which is a Design Research Institute at Cardiff Metropolitan University. And we've been involved throughout Media Cymru in providing innovation support into the innovation pipeline. So we've been doing that by giving one-to-one support to companies to go through things such as understanding the challenge that they're addressing, understanding the stakeholders that they're working with, undertaking user research, and then developing new concepts and prototypes to test with those people. So I'm here as we're not going to have formal support in this, but we're going to be there on call so that you can bring us into projects as and when you feel you might need our expertise. Cheers.
Thanks, Andy, and that's a great offer to the projects, which we'll come on to in a bit as well. We'll be hearing more from Judy in a bit and more from Rhiannon as well, but I'll just carry on with our introduction to Media Cymru first of all. So I'm assuming that most people on the call have already heard of Media Cymru. If you've not, then in terms of who we are, we're a driving force for, as we say, their sustainable and inclusive growth in the Welsh media sector. And what we're trying to do is make Wales a global hub for media production and innovation. So all of our work that we do, whether it's some of our consortium projects, and I'll show some of our partners in a moment, or our work through the innovation pipeline, has a research and development and R&D focus. And we'll talk more about that during the webinar today as well. And that also applies to this Digital Platforms Fund. We've got four pillars: green, fair, global and growth, and we funded a number of different projects through our innovation pipeline across these pillars, particularly green, fair and growth. And really all of our work just channels through into growth and trying to build a sustainable and inclusive sector. And just to mention also that we're funded by UKRI and the Strength in Places Fund. So some of our consortium partners are on this slide, which you will recognise. Like I say, we've done a number of different projects with them during the course of Media Cymru. So when we started 4 years back through to the present day, and we've also worked with a lot of our different partners on our innovation pipeline, including the BBC, Channel 4, Film Cymru, S4C, PDR, Andy, who you just heard from, who's been supporting our seed and development projects, and some others, and also the Alacrity Foundation as well. So innovation pipeline, when we talk about this, what we're really talking about is a series of training opportunities and targeted funding rounds. So the core funds that we have run, or the primary funds that we've run, have been our seed fund, our development fund, and our scale-up fund. And a number of you would have come across these, and some of you may have applied for them or been successful in getting funding from us as well. So our seed projects have been at the start of people's R&D journey, usually, where you're getting funded up to £10,000, and then at the next rung up to £50,000 for a development project, and at a higher level again for people looking to scale up. We funded some scale up projects beyond £100,000 and upwards. So that's the kind of core of our innovation pipeline. But what we've also been very happy to run over the last year or so are some more bespoke funds that we've run in partnership with people like TFW and the Outnet, as well as a series of content funds with the BBC and Film Cymru and S4C. And this digital platforms fund falls into that area of content and that wider funding that we've been offering through the innovation pipeline. So with all of our work really on the pipeline, what we're trying to do is increase capacity in the sector to carry out R&D. We want to see innovation. The ways that we're doing this, the two main ways are we fund people, we fund projects such as on this particular fund, and that gives people time and resource to undertake R&D, and then we support those projects throughout their R&D journey, throughout their projects. And we do that with the help of PDR and Andy, who you've already heard from. They spend a lot of time supporting the R&D element of projects. The Alacrity Foundation, who've supported a lot of our projects in terms of their commercialisation, and also our Media Cymru producers, who support all of our projects and have got a vast array of experience across different areas of our innovation pipeline. So awards to date, this is just to give a little bit of context. So we've had 19 funding calls already, over 750 applications, and 28 million in grant requests. So the point that I'm trying to make here really is that the demand, we've run a lot of calls, and the demand for those calls in the sector, in the Cardiff Capital Region and in Wales, has been very high. We've had a lot of demand, and the demand for this particular fund we anticipate will be very high as well. We're very happy that we've been able to award over 4.3 million to the different projects that we funded across all of our different innovation pipeline calls. And to date, that looks like 138 companies have been awarded. But by the end of Media Cymru, we hope that that figure, or we know that that figure will be over 4.5 or 4.6 million. And we hope that we would have funded in the region of 150, 160 projects, or maybe even a few more. So it's competitive. Our funds are always oversubscribed, and it's really important for that reason to carefully study the guidance and the application, which I'll come on to in a few slides' time. But I also just want to make the point that we also have quite a good ratio in terms of the number of projects that we have funded, and we run the fairest assessment processes that we can for all of our awards. So research and development, we've talked a bit about this, we've mentioned it, and particularly in the context of PDR support, you will, if you look in the guidance, what you will see is lots of information around research and development and what we define this to be and how we will support you with your research and development projects. This is the key thing to bear in mind with this and all of our funds, is that you're going to be doing a relatively short 3.5 month research and development project. So what we want to see in applications is you having thought through what that R&D will be during that 3.5 month period. And when we talk about R&D, we're thinking of things that are novel, that could be new to your industry, for example, that are creative. So you're looking at new ways of doing something or new ways of delivering something. There's a degree of uncertainty to it, so you don't know all the answers yet. It's systematic, so you've got a planned, budgeted approach, and you've got deliverables, and you've got a timeline that you're looking to work through. And then something that's transferable, so reproducible results and learnings that you can use in your business. And often the learnings that you get from an R&D project can be some of the most beneficial things. At this point, and just before I introduce the fund and the specifics around that, I'm just going to hand over to Judy just to talk a bit more about Creative Wales and just introduce the fund as well.
Thanks, James. So just really briefly, and for those who don't know us, Creative Wales, we're part of the Welsh Government. And in essence, we're an economic development agency for the creative sector. So as listed here, we have a number of priority sectors: film, TV, games, and animation. We also cover music and publishing, but that isn't, those sectors aren't particularly applicable to this scheme. So just really briefly, the reason that we're doing this scheme and the sort of the aim for the Digital Platforms Fund, if you like, is about, I mean, obviously at the moment, YouTube is the second biggest platform in the UK, and we wanted to see how we could support companies working in our priority sectors listed above, how we can help them to stay competitive and relevant. So for this specific fund, we're not looking to focus on supporting individuals or independent creative content creators, although that's not to say that applicant companies from the priority sectors can't partner up or work with these people. And hopefully this is an area that we will be looking to support more in the future. And I just wanted to finish by saying we're really pleased to be working with Media Cymru. They've obviously got a lot of experience and a really solid track record in delivering programmes along these lines. So back to James.
Thanks very much, Judy. It's really helpful just to give that context. So what I'm going to do now is just introduce everyone to the Digital Platforms Fund. So the image that you can see there is from our website, which hopefully all of you have had a chance to navigate to. What I'm going to do is just run through some slides of some of the key information from the guidance document and the questions you'll be asked in the application. And then I'm just going to share my screen, link to the website, and just show you where you actually access the guidance document, how you complete the application form, and so forth, because hopefully that'll be the most helpful information for everyone. So first of all, in terms of an overview of the fund, so as I said earlier on, what we're looking to do is provide time and resource, really, so that you can look at innovative approaches to content development and distribution. So hopefully for the successful applicants for this fund, you will then get the 3.5-month period and a bit of space to work through your R&D in a way that you might not normally have due to the funding that you receive through this particular fund. So funded projects will develop new and existing content for YouTube and other digital platforms, and the overarching objective always is developing original IP. So in terms of what you can focus on, we're looking at audience insights, market intelligence, digital strategies, and it's all really geared towards maximising commercial opportunities in this evolving landscape. And then finally, we're just making the point that we're really asking companies to push boundaries here and explore how you can engage with audiences. What can you do that's different from what's already being done? What's a bit of a step change? And thinking about that in the context of commercial practice as well. In terms of scope, so we welcome applications from both scripted and unscripted, short form and long form. And alongside the content development, some areas of your research that you might look at could include audience interaction and engagement, commercial strategies and how you'll exploit IP, collaboration with new talents and brands, and also looking at algorithms and how audiences might find your content and any research that you might do around that. In terms of your projects, you'll have your R&D project. At the end of that period, what we say you will have developed is some original digital content. And if you look in our guidance, we've got some further breakdown there of what Media Cymru's specific approach is to content creation and what we mean by that. It's definitely worth reading that. A report that sets out your R&D findings, and then new commercial opportunities and strategic directions identified. I should say what we plan to do also, I think it does come on a later slide, but is to really work with you as a cohort, and at the end of your funded project, so in mid-July next year, bring everyone together to present your findings as well. So you'll have your R&D report that you do, but we'll also look to get everyone together to actually present your experiences and what the challenges have been and what it is that you've come out with and developed at the end of your R&D journey. So some practical information. So we're funding up to 15 projects and up to a maximum of £20,000. So I would just be clear here that we don't necessarily always fund exactly 15 projects, but we would look to fund up to that number. And likewise, when people put in an indicative budget with their application, people may put up to £20,000, but it's not that we will always necessarily award at that level. We award up to £20,000. That is not to say that if anyone applies for £20,000 that you wouldn't get it. It's just a bit of a disclaimer in that we say up to for both the number of projects and the maximum budget available for each of those projects. So the R&D projects will run from April to mid-July next year, and you will receive ongoing support from both NFTS Cymru, from Rhiannon, who you've already been introduced to, and we'll say a few more words in a moment, from Creative Wales and from Media Cymru as well. So in terms of what that looks like, in case you're wondering, when we do these projects, we start with an insight day, which Rhiannon will talk more about, where we bring all of the projects together, and you get to hear from some industry experts and talk through your project. And then we have a midpoint review of your project, again, where we bring you all together, and an endpoint review, which is what I was mentioning in mid-July, where you would report by that point, but also present to the cohort as well. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you are supported throughout your project. You get given funding. We work with you on your budget. We work with you on your timeline. My colleague Rachel on the call supports projects with all of those aspects of their project documentation and their deliverables, their milestones and their budget. And we're in contact with you throughout your R&D project. The last point on this slide is probably the most important one in the whole webinar, and it's so obvious to say, but I understand that everyone in the sector is so busy that you don't always have time to spend a lot of time on applications, but please read the guidance and read the application criteria. The guidance includes the questions. So if you want to work on the questions before you submit them, you can do that. They're all there in the guidance. These applications will all go through a competitive process where they're assessed by Media Cymru, Creative Wales and NFTS. We will definitely be oversubscribed on this fund. We'll receive a lot of applications. I think it's going to be very popular. So to give yourself the strongest possibility of being funded, it's really important that you think about specifically what your research and development is going to be during this project, and how you are going to meet the criteria in the guidance and answer each of the questions as concisely as you can. So I cannot stress that point enough, and I will show you both the guidance and the application criteria shortly. So in terms of eligibility, just want to flag this now so everyone's clear in terms of who can actually apply for the fund. So companies must, and I'll just read through each of them because they're important, so be operating within the creative sector in Wales and have their head office address in Wales, have a track record of content development which has been commercially distributed within the past 3 years. The individual track record of the company, director, CEO or shareholder of the company will also be acceptable. Have a clearly articulated idea for an R&D project. Be able to dedicate time and effort to complete an R&D project between April 26 and July 26. I would say on eligibility as well, rather than get bogged down in individual conversations potentially on this webinar, because it can be more complex, get in touch with us at the media.cymru email address that was at the start, and we'll put up again at the end, and we'll very happily talk to you about that if you've got any questions around whether you're eligible or not. And then the timeline. So the fund's already opened, closes on the 8th of January at noon. So unfortunately, we can't assess any applications after noon, so they have to be in by that time. It's a Thursday, just a note in case people are thinking that's a Monday or a Friday. And what we will then do is pretty quickly turn around the application notification. So we'll be in touch within a week to let you know if you've been successful or not. And then R&D projects begin. I've said here the 23rd of March. This is when we want to get you contracted by, but it's in terms of a timeline, it's probably easy to think in terms of the project starting right at the beginning of April and then running through till the midpoint of July. And currently we're saying the 17th of July. What we will do once we know which projects are being taken forward and being funded, we will work with you very closely on your timelines, and we will confirm the precise start date and the end date of your project as well. Rhiannon, do you want to come in at this point and just say a bit more about the Insight Day in April?
Yes, hello. So the Insight Day at the moment, we're sort of keeping it quite flexible. So as it says there on the screen, we're looking at Thursday, the 16th of April. What we're hoping that day will look like at the moment is that everyone will come together, likely be in central Cardiff. And the morning session will be focusing on meeting the cohort, networking, telling one another more about your projects. Then there'll be a spot of lunch, very lovely. And then in the afternoon, then we're going to bring in some fantastic guest speakers. And the reason I'm keeping this flexible at the moment is because it sort of depends on who's successful. So sort of makes sense to look at the group and see what would be most useful for you. But that might look like something like it could be a speaker talking about the state of the nation, of YouTube, what the current trends are looking like. It could be a production session. It could be a session on analytics. So as I say, it's sort of open at the moment, but open to feedback, and we'll keep the conversation going on what those sessions could look like in the end.
Great, thanks very much, Rhiannon. And then I also just want to flag two quick things before we go and have a look at the guidance in the application. BFI diversity standards. So this is the first fund that we've asked people to address these in their applications. It's the first time that we're doing it. We've put a lot more information in the actual guidance, but you'll be asked to choose at least 2 of the 5 standards that you comply with, and you can do it by standard A, so on-screen representation, creative leadership and team, industry access and opportunities, audience development and accessibility. And I'll show you in a sec, but in the guidance, what you've got then for different areas, you've got more information there about how you can actually address 2 of those standards, or you could address more if you chose to. The 2 things I would emphasize on this is, one, again, if you need help or you're unsure, get in touch. We can help you if you need any help with guidance around this and how to comply with them. And the second thing I would say is, please engage with this, because when we assess your applications, this will be part of the assessment criteria, and it will form part of your overall score. So often people are rushed putting in applications, and if this is the last or one of the last questions they see, it might be tempting just to do it quickly. And I would strongly recommend that you engage with it fully. It's really important for us. We really want to do good work in this area and comply with these standards, and we want to see our projects doing the same. So I cannot emphasize enough just to engage with that question as well, as strongly as you engage with all the other questions in the application form. And then just to flag also our diversity monitoring and baseline survey. So our baseline survey, you'll be asked to complete when you apply, and then you put to your baseline, it gives you a reference number that you put in your application. This gives us really excellent data on the sector, which we use to analyse and how Cardiff is doing, how the Cardiff Capital Region is doing compared to other regions of the UK, as well as looking at individual company attributes and looking at people at the start of their R&D journey to the end of their journey. So we're really grateful for you doing that. And likewise, the diversity monitoring questionnaire as well. Both of them are anonymous. It's really helpful if you can complete the diversity monitoring questionnaire for us as well. Okay, what I'm going to do before I go to questions is I'm just going to stop sharing and just quickly show you how you get to the application form and the guidance as well. So if I bring up the Media Cymru homepage, and if I then share this, please shout anyone if you can't see the Media Cymru website now. So I'm on the Media Cymru homepage here. If I click on opportunities and I scroll down, you will see that we've got these 2 calls open at the moment. So just whilst we're here and we're looking at this, I just want to also flag, we do also have an immersive challenge fund that we are delivering in partnership with Cult VR that's open at the moment, and applications close for that in January also. So feel free to please have a look at that if it's of interest to you. In terms of what we're talking about today, the Digital Platforms Fund, if I just click on Learn More, Then you've got an overview of the fund with the apply and the guidance links there. But if I just scroll down a bit, what you will see is helpfully a lot of the slides that I've covered and a lot of information from the guidance. So an overview, the scope, the key dates are included in the web page as well as our description of what R&D is, accessibility, and our contact details if you've got any questions. So if I open the fund guidance first, and if I just show you how, if you go to the index, you've got all of the key information there. It's all set out. So eligibility, key dates.
Sorry, James. I think
Yeah.
it's just showing the website page still. You might
Is
need
it?
to reshare your screen of the PDF.
Great. Thanks, Ellie. Let me do
No
that.
worries.
Okay. Can you see that now?
Yes, I can see that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So what you can see, all I've done is go to the website, click on the green guidance button, and then it takes me to this document. And you will see from the index, you've got eligibility, our definition of R&D, of content development, information about our pillars, responsibility of the applicant, ethics, AI, subsidy control. And I should mention at this point as well, this is being offered as an MFA opportunity. It's important for everyone to know that, and there's more information on that in the guidance. Again, come to us and ask any questions if you need to, if you're unsure around anything around subsidy control. And then right at the bottom, you've got the assessment criteria and the application questions. So if I scroll all the way down, what you will see is the assessment criteria. So it's really important to read this because this is what the assessment panel will also be looking at when they assess your application. So the first two questions are around R&D. So we want you to outline, not questions, sorry, guidance around R&D. So we want you to outline the content idea you would like to research and develop and why you believe that R&D would support ideation, idea development. And then the second point is around the specific R&D activities that you would like to undertake. So we start with a bit of a description again about what we think R&D is, and then it links back to this particular call, and it says that you might want to consider some of the following. So new ways of generating and development content ideas for digital platforms, engaging audiences, market intelligence, digital strategies related to commercial opportunities, and the use of technology. Then it goes on to talk about the timeline. So this is a really key point on any assessment panel is we will look at what you're trying to achieve in the time you're trying to achieve it. Are your deliverables realistic? Is there a realistic level of risk? What's the experience and capability of the team? What are the technological requirements for the project? Are they realistic? And is there a realistic indicative budget? So on that point, on the budget, the MFA points repeated there, but I would just say at this stage, what we ask for is an indicative budget. And then my colleague Rachel and our producers will work with you if you are successful to develop that budget further. But it's very prudent in your application to put in as much detail as you can based on what you know now. And obviously, because it's research and development, you don't know everything now, but we do want a clear timeline and a clear plan for the R&D that you want to undertake, and as much information as you can possibly put in around the budget for that now. And then finally, the BFI standards, which I've already talked about, and as you can see, there's more information on those there. What I'm going to do now, if I just stop sharing again for a second, and I go back to the website. So Ellie, can you see the website now if I go back to that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to click on apply. And then I'm guessing you can't see that. Can you still
No,
just see
we can see that. We can see that.
Okay, excellent. So when you click apply, you see the application form. So obviously it makes sense to, if you can, start doing the applications offline first so that you can copy them in afterwards. So you've got a bit of blurb at the start about the fund and what it is and things we've been through, eligibility criteria, the baseline survey, which I've mentioned, where you pop your number in there. Then you put in your details. And then these are the questions that you'll be asked. So project title, and then please introduce yourself, company and organisation, the work that you currently undertake. So you've got a maximum of 300 words to do that. Please provide a short description of your project. So there's only 50 words here, but we tend to use this for our comms team to announce successful projects after we confirm who they are in January. Please outline the content ideas you would like to research and develop through this R&D, 250 words. Is this your first step into developing content for digital platforms? If not, can you summarize your activities to date? What are your company's long-term goals in terms of digital content development? Again, you've got 250 words for that. And then it goes on to say, please tell us about the specific research activity you will undertake. And then you've got some pointers below that in terms of the what research will inform the ideas, what research will you undertake into potential markets, audiences for your content ideas, I should say, and what will you deliver in terms of a pitch deck, a sizzle reel, etc. So you'll see that the first part of the application is very R&D focused. So that's what you need to think about, and you need to think carefully about your responses to those questions. What's the proposed duration of your project? This is just the way the form's set up, so everyone can just take 3 months for that one. And then please demonstrate how your R&D project activities would be achievable in the time frame that you've proposed. So going back to the point from the assessment criteria, it's important that you demonstrate a clear and achievable timescale for deliverables. So we're looking for a realistic set of deliverables during those 3.5 months. What's your estimated budget? So we're offering up to £20,000 per project. And then please provide an indication of the kind of costs you're likely to incur in the delivery of your project. And that goes back to the point I was making about project a minute ago. And then finally, project impact. Can you please specify how your project will align with at least 2 of the BFI standards that are listed below? You've also got the option to provide some supporting documents. So it just says, please feel to use this section to upload any sketches, storyboards, visualizations of the idea proposed. And then it gives you some of the technical guidance around that, and the diversity monitoring questionnaire, which I've mentioned also before you click submit. On supporting documents, if you're unsure about that, or you're a couple of days out from applying, and you've got any questions, again, please get in touch and we'll happily help you with that too. Okay, so I'm going to move away from the application form and just go back to the slide deck for a moment. And I think that brings us to the end and any questions that people have. So I'm just going to take it out of presenter mode so I can see questions that people have asked here as well. Okay, thank you everyone. Lots of information in a short period of time, I realise. So what I will do at this point is just say, well, maybe first of all, Rach, can I ask, is there anything that's come up in the chat that we haven't been able to answer so far, or that it would be good to address any questions that potentially group together?
Yes, we've had a question from Joe from Bright Branch asking, do you have any latest research on YouTube's viewing habits and genres that might work well, please? I guess that might be a question for you.
I can answer. I'm happy to answer that one. So I'm currently leading on a YouTube first training program. So working very closely with YouTube at the moment to develop a year-long training program called the Creator Incubator, which starts in January. So first, I would just say these things are constantly changing and evolving, but what they're seeing at the moment is with viewing habits, people are starting to move more towards a bigger screen. So where up until recently people were watching YouTube on their mobile phones, people are starting to come together and watch YouTube on the television, which I thought was quite interesting. UK viewing habits are also increasing in terms of how long they're watching content for. So the average in the last few years has been around the 7-minute mark, and that's increasing more towards the 12-minute mark. Also have noted that UK viewing is quite cosmopolitan and easily influenced from outside other countries, essentially. So so there's like a number of different genres that the UK seem to watch, but what seems to be on top at the moment is gaming, sport, particularly football, and entertainment as well. entertainment is quite high too. What's also seemingly coming into the space at the moment, and they're seeing as an incoming trend, is micro drama. They're thinking probably 20-minute micro dramas is going to be the next upcoming popular thing to watch. Hope that helps somewhat, but please do, feel free to contact me if I can help with anything else.
Thanks, Rhiannon. That's great. Andy, did you have a question?
Yeah, not a question, just a commentary on what Rhiannon just said, and to perhaps add a little bit of context to the kind of support that we provide within PDR. So, although I couldn't tell you anything about what current YouTube viewing habit trends are, one of the things that we might be able to help companies with is if they have very specific audiences in mind and they want to understand the viewing habits of those people. That's the kind of thing we could help support with. How do you engage with those people? How do you learn what those specific people are doing and where they're doing it and why? And then helping you turn that into the concepts that you develop and test.
Thanks, Andy. And I think you supported one of our previous content funds, BBC Content Fund, one of the projects on that with something similar, didn't you?
That's right. Yes, we did. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? I've just had a look through the chat facility and I can't see anything unless anyone shouts if there's something I've missed or anyone's got any other questions they want to shout out.
Right, there's a couple more in the chat, I think.
Okay, thanks,
Right at the
Rach.
end.
So can you give some examples of what you are looking for this fund, perhaps previous successful applications to give us a clearer idea? I think, thanks, Matthew, for the question, by the way. I think this goes back to what I was saying about the application guidance and the criteria, that what we're looking for are R&D projects, and we're looking for you to, give as much information as you can at the application stage in terms of what R&D you actually want to undertake. In terms of successful applications, a clear idea. This is the first time that we've run a content fund like this that hasn't been attached to a broadcaster. So the ones we've done previously have been with S4C or the BBC, for example, and they've been around specific things like engaging younger audiences or climate change. So this, working with Creative Wales and NFTS on this, it's a new area for us, this particular fund. But I don't know, Rhiannon or Judy, if there's anything else you'd want to add on that particular question.
I was just going to say what you said is that it is the first time we've run the fund, so we can't actually point to any previous applications. But if you have an idea and you do want to discuss it or you have any queries, then as James said, just drop us a line and we can talk it over with you.
Thanks, Judy. And Maria, to your question, I think it's a similar answer in terms of the types of projects we'd like to see. Really, we're looking for applicants to come to us and tell us the R&D that they want to do. In terms of the deliverables that we would suggest, we don't normally suggest deliverables to projects. We wait for projects to apply to us. What we will do, though, is once if you're successful and you're being funded, we will work with you on what those deliverables are and help shape them. And that could be with Rhiannon and Judy, and it could be with Andy at PDR, and it could be with Rachel and our team and our producers as well. And then Daniel has a question. I have a YouTube first project already shot. Could the fund be used to edit, deliver, and test delivery mechanisms for engaging with that audience? I would say, but please, Judy, come in if you think otherwise. But I would say, in principle, yes. But what we would want to see is some new research and development. So it can't be an extension of your existing project. We need to see some new R&D. It can relate to existing content, but it has to be a new project and a new piece of work. Okay, and then
sorry, James, just to add to that, also, if you as a TV or a film company have existing content and you're looking to repurpose it or reformat it for a digital platform, that's also eligible.
Thanks, Judy. And then Hugh has a question. So is this fund specifically for R&D solely, or is it also towards developing the content that will be put on these new platforms? So I would say that it is R&D. All these projects are R&D, and what we're looking for is R&D and for you to undertake that in the 3.5-month period. But if you look in our guidance, our approach towards content development, we specify in there the types of things that we mean by content development and what you may develop in terms of content during the course of your R&D project. But it is funding for R&D. It remains an R&D project. Okay, Dan, you mentioned you would like to work with companies in your priority sectors. What are those sectors? Is that one for you, Judy? Was that?
Yeah, shall I come in here? So because it is Creative Wales funded, the scheme, it does have to fit with our priority sectors, which are film, television, animation, and games. I mentioned on the slide earlier, we also cover music and publishing, but those sectors aren't applicable to this scheme.
Thanks, Judy. And then the next one, are there any restrictions about other commercial partners involved in the project? I just wonder with that one, Peter, I don't know if you could either in the chat or if you want to just say what you mean by other commercial partners or what you're thinking there. Okay, whilst you, Peter, I don't know if you're able to speak, if you're able to unmute yourself. If not, maybe just pop it in the chat and we can answer it. In the meantime, so we've got another question. You mentioned film funding films. Do you have fund you have fund documentaries production? Judy, I might pass that one over to you as well.
That's I think that's one for Creative Wales. So yeah, it's worth getting in touch with our screen team. I can see a number are on the webinar because we do fund unscripted productions. So if you want to get in touch with Creative Wales, we can talk you through the criteria for that.
Okay, thanks, Judy. And maybe the next one, if you could cover as well.
Interesting one. There isn't a specific reason why we are excluding music and publishing. I mean, our publishing funding does tend to be done at arm's length. I think we're specifically focusing on 4 of the is it 4? Yes, film, TV, games, animation of our priority sectors. I mean, potentially we could look at a music project, but yeah, if you have a specific project, then drop us a line. But it's the 4 that are kind of, I suppose, sort of the visual genres that we're particularly sort of looking to support for this one.
Thanks, Judy. And then just coming back to your question, Peter, if I understand it correctly, in terms of eligibility on this, you can be the lead on only one application, but you could be involved in other projects, but just not as the lead, if that's what you're referring to there. If it's something else, then please put your hand up. I'm happy to answer. Okay, and then we've got another question in the meantime. How do we drop you a line if it's a music-based project to check eligibility from a visual perspective? So I think maybe in the first instance, if you email Media Cymru and Creative Wales between me and Judy, we can pick up all inquiries. Okay, and then if successful, what happens with the IP after this scheme? Who owns it? What would the next steps be? Judy, I might pass that one to you as well.
So in terms of IP ownership, and this is actually quite key, the applicant owns the IP. So for us, because of the way it's funded, it has to be, the company will be left with, will have sort of 2, I suppose, assets. One is the actual IP of the project they're developing, alongside the R&D nature of it. So the digital strategy. So the company retains the ownership of the IP throughout.
Thanks. And I will, I can see Benedict, you've got your hand up, and I will come to you now. I just want to quickly look at the other question, which Judy, you may have a steer on as well, which is from James Harding. So the eligibility mentions that companies must have a track record of content development which has been commercially distributed within the past 3 years. Can a lead company that hasn't had commercial distribution work with other companies that have to support the application?
I'm not sure I fully understand that, but basically you have to have a track record of either producing content that has been commercially distributed. By that we mean we're not looking to support companies that have solely sort of produce content that's been solely distributed on digital platforms like YouTube. We will, however, also look at the individual track record. So if you have a track record as a, say, producer who's commercially distributed content, and you have a relatively new company, you can apply. So it's either individual track record or a company track record, but you do have to show that you have produced something that's been commercially distributed.
Thanks, Judy. Benedict, do you want to ask your question? I'm not sure, Benedict, if you're able to unmute yourself, and if you've got a problem with that, feel free to type it into the chat facility.
I can't use the chat. Hold on a minute.
Okay, I can hear you fine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, sorry, there seems to be a problem with one of my microphones. I've got two for some reason. Going on from what you were just talking about, I do have a company which I've formed for development here in Splot called Splot Animation. However, I'm someone who has worked in development for other people. So, for example, I've worked on Disney Pictures. I've been pitching my own stuff this year. I sold a show to Nickelodeon. But you seem to be solely focused mainly on people who have an active producer role. Now, I'm primarily a storyboard artist, but I also work with people to develop their work, and have also developed my own work. Something you would still encourage people to apply for this fund, because my track record in animation, for example, goes back to 25 years as a worker. And I do wonder if I'm missing something here where you are primarily concentrating on producers rather than people actively trying to get off the ground, if that makes sense.
Judy,
Is that
do
a
you want
good
to comment on
question?
that one again? Yes, thank you, Benedict.
So, sorry, Benedict, can I just check? Did you say, so has your company got, have you got company credits?
In what sense do I have company credits?
Would so in terms of you've obviously, as you say, you've worked in animation for a long time, but in terms of have you got your own company, or do you work for other companies?
So I've set up my own company just this year in order to be able to develop work so I can take it off to pitch to people, primarily for copyright reasons, but also a foundation to be able to get into pitch meetings. In terms of having company credits, this is the sole and only company that I've had, but I'm primarily a sole trader, although I have worked, for example, for other companies, head of story at Aardman, also at Colorback Media, assistant director at Cartoon Saloon, and so on. So I'm trying to understand what sort of person you're trying to target here. So are you primarily targeting proven producers who already have a track record or are producing stuff, or are you also assisting in startup creation as well with this R&D project?
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for that. It's not assisting startups, this one. It is supporting existing companies. But I would urge you to get in touch, if you haven't already, with Creative Wales, because there are potentially ways that we could support you, but probably not via this.
I was thinking of doing so. Just so you know, your web form on the so thank you for the email address today. I was actually trying to get in touch with you for Instagram on that. So
Okay, thank you, Benedict. Thank you, Julia. And then we've got another question from Dan. So our track record is mainly in producing TV adverts, yet our R&D proposal is in a different field, e.g. scripted short films. Is that okay? Sorry, Judy, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we do need a track record in terms of, as I mentioned, so if you're a film, TV company, games animation company, you will need a track record of having to commercially produce something that's been commercially distributed. So I wouldn't say that producing TV adverts is, for us, considered commercial distribution.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Any other questions from anyone, or any that I haven't picked up from the chat? I think I've been through them. Okay, so then Danny, so if my project has previously received funding through another stream with the BBC, would this make it ineligible? No, if you mean through the BBC, do you mean through the Media Cymru BBC Content Innovation Fund? If you're referring to another Media Cymru pipeline fund that we funded you on, then that doesn't make you ineligible. You can still apply to this fund. But I don't know if you're referring to the Media Cymru fund or another BBC programme. Okay, and then I think, so Anna Berg, would you expect mediums with XR? On that one, I may defer to Rhiannon or Matt, possibly. If you've got any ideas on that.
I don't know much about extended reality to be able to answer that, but we are keeping an open mind on these applications, so I can't see why not.
Okay, thank you. And then Julian, so to be clear, you can only be eligible if you have sold another company or you.
I'm going to have to run this up.
Oh, I think someone might have left their mic off there. So Julian's question, so to be clear, you can only be eligible if you've sold another company or you've sold direct to audience. Do you want to pick that one up, Judy, again?
Yeah, I presume this is obviously you mean in terms of the track record. So yeah, it comes back to you need to have had a project that you've produced previously, let's say a TV program or an animation project, and it has to have been commercially distributed. So you can't, it's not we wouldn't accept as a track record that you've produced something that you've basically put out for free on, say, YouTube.
Thank you, Judy. And Anna, on your question about XR, I would actually just suggest on that, just so we're clear, that if you just get in touch with us, if you've got any questions around that, if you've got any doubt about whether it's eligible as well, we'll be happy to advise you further on that. Okay, any other questions from anyone? I can't see anything else coming through. Okay, thank you all very much for joining. Thank you, Rhiannon, Judy, and Andy as well for all your support. I think we've got another one actually. So Matt, could you please send a bit more information to Media Cymru? This wouldn't just be an XR project, would need to involve YouTube or digital distribution platform. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so
James, that was just me as you were sort of answering, saying the same thing.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, I think unless anyone's got any other questions, we'll leave it there. And Ellie's helpfully put in a link to our newsletter as well. Great. Thank you everyone for your time. Appreciate you joining. Good luck with your applications and please get in touch with us if you've got any support that you need at all. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.